you see him pulling up. Best move on over. Multi-faceted ninja coming in, I don't say I ain't told you. He's got a third row lifted, second gen backseat full of his soldiers. We going country to rap to R&B, baby, bring that big ol' bud over. Cause he do it all, baby, from baking to welding, raising 6 kids and making his girl feel like she's Helen of Troy. Yeah, he do it all, baby, yeah, he been through hell and he went from addiction to the kitchen. But no, he ain't telling us so. No, he ain't telling us so. Cause that's how legends are born. And if you know, you know. You can take a picture if you want, and then you best get gone. I wouldn't try him if I were you.
What's going on, everybody? We are back with another one. It's the one and only, the multifaceted ninja, the stay-at-home dad, doing it all from welding to baking and everything in between. Now, over the last couple of months, I've been going through and re-outfitting the Tundra build with a bunch of new gear from our friends over at Yzona. When I first started out this process, I had the ranch hand set all the way around from the front bumper, the tube steps, and even the rear bumper, but unfortunately it added a bunch of unwanted weight, and it wasn't really the style that I like either. For me, I prefer a lot more low profile and aggressive look, and with Yzona, that's exactly what we're gonna be getting. So in this video, we're gonna be going through a couple of things. To start off, we're gonna be going through the unboxing and the assembly of the rear bumper. After that, we're gonna go through and do the wiring, because I'm sure Yzona is gonna come through for us as they have with all of the other parts. And they're most likely gonna add in the light pods that go in the inserts here on their bumper. So I'm gonna walk you through the process of getting that done in a plug and play style like we have in our previous videos. So let's move on to the unboxing of this rear bumper. Let's go and see what we got. That way we can get it all assembled. All right, you guys, so now that we've got everything pulled out to this point, we're gonna get ready to do a quick walkthrough on what all we have. So for starters, we've got our 2 end pieces, and then you're gonna have your center piece here. Now, Yzona did come through for us, and they did give us the light pods, just like I thought they would. We've got some extra hardware here, which we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna look into this as well. And then we're gonna get to looking at how this is gonna get assembled. Now, I'm gonna go and assemble all of mine upside down, just like it is here, because it's gonna make the assembly process a lot easier. So let's get into what we've got here, and then we'll get to the assembly. So these are gonna be all the pieces if you were gonna use the inserts for the sensors on the bumper. We will not be using this, so we're gonna set these aside. So it looks like this is gonna be the essentials right here. They did give us some D-rings. That's gonna be nice for me. I prefer white, so we're gonna go and we're gonna change these to white. We're also gonna change this trim right here to white as well. I will show a video of that. All right, you guys, well, there it is. Just like that, we've changed the colors of the accent pieces. So now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the rest of the assembly. We're gonna mount these 2 end pieces onto the main part of the bumper here, and then we're gonna go and bolt these onto the frame of the truck. Now these brackets here are gonna be part of what holds this bumper onto the Tundra. So after we get that done, we should be able to mount this right up to the truck with no issues at all. So let's go ahead and go through all of our hardware. Let's get these 2 end pieces mounted up so we can look at the wiring. So now that we've got our hardware all dumped out, we're gonna want to sift through this and make sure we have the correct amount of hardware so we can get through the assembly process with no issues. we're gonna have some different size washers with a different size inner diameter. They look similar to these ones right here. Now these with the bigger inner diameter are gonna be used for the M10 bolts. The ones with the smaller inner diameter are gonna be used for the M8 bolts. We're gonna have some M10 bolts that are button heads. We're also gonna have some M10s that are hex bolts. You're gonna have smaller bolts that are the M8s. Those are all gonna be hex bolts. And from here, we're just gonna go through, count everything, make sure you have all the hardware you need, and then we'll move forward from there. All right, so there it is. We've got everything laid out so we can visually see what we have. So we're gonna have 6 of these M10 button head bolts, 4 of these M10 hex bolts, 6 of these M8 hex bolts, 6 of these smaller inner diameter washers, 12 of these washers with a larger inner diameter, 4 of these washers, 12 of these larger M10 lock washers, 6 of your M8 lock washers, 6 of these larger M10 nuts, along with 2 of the smaller M8 nuts. All right, now let's start putting all of our hardware together so we can get this assembled. Okay, let's get started on the assembly. Now you're gonna get one of your end pieces. We're gonna put it right up here. Now these are only held on with 3 bolts. There's one here, there's gonna be one here, and then there's gonna be one right here. These bolts are gonna be the button head bolts. And you're gonna start with one of these washers. These are the thinner M10s. You're gonna put that on. After that, you're gonna run that through the hole, followed by another one of those M10 washers, then an M10 lock washer, and then one of your larger M10 nuts. So once you get to this point, don't tighten it in. Go ahead and do the other 2, then we'll come back and we'll tighten everything down afterwards. All right, so we've got all 3 of these bolts loosely tightened down. You're gonna need a size 14 wrench and a size 6 Allen wrench. All right, well that is the complete assembly for the rear bumper. It only took 6 bolts. All we gotta do now is get our lights wired up. Now the way I'm gonna do these lights, I'm gonna wire the outside lights together as one switch, and then I'm gonna do the 2 inside lights together on a single switch as well. So after we get that done, we'll be able to put up the mounting brackets to the frame of the truck, and then we'll be able to get this bolted up. So let's go ahead and take a look at the wiring on this, and we'll see what we can come up with. All right, you guys, well now let's take a look into the wiring and see what we've got going on. So to start out, we're gonna do a quick walkthrough of what all I have laid out here on the table. For starters, we've got some heat shrink. Now I chose lined waterproof heat shrink. This is marine grade. It keeps from having any issues in the future. Along with that, I have heat shrink connectors. They also have solder in them. Again, you can choose anything you would like to if you do have your own process. So as far as us, this is what we're gonna be using. Next up, what we're gonna use, instead of wiring all these together, which is a little bit more simple, we're gonna go the plug and play route, just like I did with the front bumper, and we're gonna use these connector pieces. Now these are 16 gauge, and one thing to remember, even though these light pods are 20 gauge, you would never wanna run a 20 gauge wire from the back of the truck to the front. Such a long distance, you're gonna need to run a bigger gauge. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be running a 16 gauge from the back of the truck all the way to the front, and we're gonna be using an 18 gauge wire to extend the leads here and put on our plugs. Next, you're gonna need a wire stripper tool. Use whatever you want. For me, I prefer to use a razor blade. It's a lot easier. It keeps from actually cutting into the wires. Also, you're gonna wanna get some wire loom. For me, this is nice because it makes a nice looking professional harness by the time you're done. Get some electrical tape as well. You're also gonna need a heat gun along with some wire conduit. What this is gonna do is this is gonna keep our wires safe from the back of the truck to the front when we get it all strapped in underneath. So that pretty much wraps it up for everything we have and everything we're gonna need to use. Let's go ahead and get straight into the wiring. So I've got my pre-cut wire. we're gonna go and get into this. Now, I've got the GoPro here so I can attempt to give you guys a closer look at the first one that I do. And from there, I'm gonna run through the rest of them, and then we'll get started on the harness that comes from the truck to the lights. We're gonna get 2 of these heat shrink connectors. We're gonna use the red ones. The red ones are for smaller gauge wire, anywhere from about 22 gauge to 18 gauge. Go ahead and get one of your heat shrinks. Put it over whichever wire you wanna start first. All right, now we're gonna go and heat shrink the first one. Now, when you do this, you wanna make sure you heat up that center enough to where you see the solder melt into the wire. All right, and there we go. The solder started to bleed, so we should be good on that one. Let it cool down, and then you can go ahead and move on to the next one. So now we're gonna slide this other one onto the positive wire. See, right here, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but some of the wire folded back. So we're gonna go and pull this back out so we can make sure none of your wires are folded backwards. We wanna make sure everything is tucked correctly into these connector pieces. Make sure the solder is right over the wires and shrink it. Now, what we're gonna do from this point here, we're gonna take some heat shrink just to cover up these exposed wires. We're gonna run it down like this here. Take it, run it over all of your wires. This way, what we can do is we can cover up all of the area we did, protecting it from the elements. Then we will run another one. All right, and get one more piece just so we have a nice full coverage. All right, so now we've got our connection that we just made sealed. We're gonna let that cool down, and then we'll get started on attaching the connector. What we wanna do is we want to preload some of the heat shrink so we can cover what we're gonna be doing here in just a second. If you do it too late, your heat shrink will not go over your connector pieces. So you have to preload your heat shrink so when we're done connecting these, we can bring it back up and we'll cover the wire so it looks professional, and then we'll move on to the rest of them. We are gonna get 2 more of the red connectors. Now that we've got all of these loaded up, we will do the male pieces on the light pods and the female pieces on the actual harness coming from the truck itself. So I like that. So now let's go ahead and get started on getting these connected. You'll notice on these connectors, one end is a little skinnier than the other end, and that's to allow you to go from a thinner gauge to a thicker gauge. Kind of like what we're doing here, because these are 16, these are 18 gauge. So put your smaller end of the connector on whichever wire is smaller. Let's go ahead and heat it. Again, make sure we heat it until that solder in the middle bleeds into the wires. That's what's gonna hold the connection for us. All right, there it goes. Now let's get another connector. Now that we got that one on there, we're gonna go ahead and heat shrink this one. Okay, so now we'll start sliding our heat shrink up. So we'll do the first one, shrink it all the way up at the top. Let's take our next one. We'll just do a nice little overlap. Now we'll do a third one and just keep running them all until we are finished covering the red and black wire. All right, and just that easy, we've made ourselves a complete harness. Plug and play. It really is just that easy. So now we're gonna move on to the rest. I'm gonna get through all of these and then we'll get on to the actual harness that'll come from the engine bay all the way to the back and plug right into the lights. All right, so now that we've finished up our custom wiring harnesses for each one of these light pods, we're gonna go and get the other half of it done. We're gonna figure out what length of wire we're going to need. Now we're gonna use 16 gauge wire because that's gonna carry our current a lot better due to the fact that the length of wire we need is gonna be so long. You do not wanna use a smaller gauge wire if you're carrying current a distance. You wanna go with a bigger gauge wire. So I'm gonna run outside and figure out the length of wire we're gonna need. I'm gonna make 2 of those cuts and then we'll come back in here so we can finish with the wiring harness. All right, so we're moving on to the second part of the wiring harness. Now I've already pre-cut the length that I needed and it came out to about 29 to 30 feet. So I did cut 2 of those. Now I'm gonna do the first one with you guys and then I'm gonna run through the second one. So the way this is gonna work is each one of our lights have the male piece and our harnesses are gonna have 2 receiving female pieces on each one of the leads. That way I will be able to have the 2 outside pod lights plug into one lead and then the inside 2 pod lights plug in to the second lead. So let me get started with doing the first harness and you guys will be able to get a close up of what exactly I'm doing here and then I'll be able to move on. So I'm gonna slide a sleeve up here just to get this covered real quick. Go ahead and get your wires stuffed in. Do the same with this. Now my way is not the right way, it's just my way. So if you guys want to do this your own way, of course, go for it. What we're going to be using next, this is the heat shrink I was talking about earlier. And we're just going to cut the size we want and we'll hope it fits. So that'll be for that one. I'm gonna move on to the second lead and then we'll be able to get this installed. Okay, so there's that clip fully harnessed. All right, you guys, well, that is a wrap on our custom wiring harness. Now, if I had to guess, your moms would be super proud. So what we've done here is we've created our own custom plug and play system for us to be able to run our light pods in the bumper with just the press of a button. So the way this is gonna work is you're gonna have your 2 outside lights here. They'll run in to one of your leads. Then you're gonna have your 2 inside lights here running in to your other lead. And the way you choose to run your leads is gonna be different for everybody. Now I'm gonna run mine down the driver's side of the pickup truck because my aux beam system is on the driver's side in the engine bay. Now this is gonna be a wrap on part 1 of the bumper installation and assembly. In part 2, I'm going to walk you guys through the process of removing the rear bumper off the Tundra, and then we'll get to installing this bumper from our friends over at Yzona. Now, if this video helped you out at all, go ahead and smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you don't already. Please save it to one of your favorites and also send it to a friend that might be going through the same process because it helps the channel out a lot. I appreciate you guys sticking around through this, and I'll see you in part 2 of the installation.